Yeah.
This is a song for you all, everybody. A song for everybody. This is a song called You Keep On Moving.
For me, it was a difficult period because I had to go home. We were making Come Taste the Band. We were pretty much halfway through the album, and Tommy, God bless him, he'd called someone in America, in Boulder, Colorado, to send him some coke, some very high, pure cocaine, an ounce of coke. And it had obviously arrived via a book with the pages turned out, and somebody had sent a coke. And at this point, I was the elephant in the room. Obviously, everybody was told in Germany, don't give Glenn any drugs because he's insane. So Tommy got this ounce of coke, and I could feel there was some coke around, and I wasn't being offered any, and it was really upsetting to me. So one night, Tommy goes out, he meets this chick somewhere in Munich, and he takes his assistant with him, Dave Brown, and Tommy leaves his room, and I creep up there, and I get a key from the desk, and I'll go in, and as all cocaine addicts do, I rummage through his stuff, and I find the coke, and I take a couple of grams out, go to my room, and I start to get high. And after like hour number 2, I start to feel really remorseful, and I think this is really not, even me that was loving coke felt really bad that I shouldn't have done that. So I went and gave it back to Nicky Bell, my assistant, and I felt really bad about giving it back to him, that I got into an altercation with him in the morning in a room full of people in a restaurant, and we had a bit of a fracas, and I hit Nicky, which is very like me to do. I'm not a violent person, which was the thing that started the whole, we got to send Glenn back to the UK because he's out of control. And then I attacked Ozzy Hoppy, the German tour manager. Then I tried to throw a door off its hinges off the 18th floor of the Alabama house or something. I'd now become like this insane fiend that was like needed to be like strapped down, and you naughty boy. So they sent me. Tony Edwards flew in, and he realized, Glenn, you must go home now. I must send you back to England to take care of yourself. You know, so I went back to England, and tail between my legs and remorseful, because although I am out of my mind, I'm also really reeling and feeling that wow, I think I've really fucked up this time. So I went back, and my mother was told that I was doing drugs, and Mom found me a doctor that, through my doctor, we found a guy to come up and sort of rehabilitate me at Vicky and Jackie's mom and dad's country club, where they sedated me for 3 weeks on some sort of a Valium kind of drug where I was completely out of it. So my detox from cocaine, there was no Betty Ford Center back then, 1975, was to heavily sedate me with another kind of drug. Let's put him on like a really intense down drug, where I didn't do any drugs cocaine for 3 weeks. And it was no detox really, it was all another thing. But I didn't want to, it was a big thing for me to show the band I was going to try and attempt to get clean.
The thing about a touring rock and roll band is this. Of course, you're young lads, reasonably presentable looking guys with a ton of money in your pocket, and you're miles from home, and in some cases you're as I was at the time, technically a bachelor. My first marriage had gone sky high because of the lifestyle. So of course you're going to have fun. I mean, it would be ridiculous to expect you not to have fun, but you have an obligation, because when someone buys a ticket to see you play, that's a contract with you that says, and the contract says, that guy will be able to play when he gets on stage. it's the name of the game. You know, I mean it's what you do, it's a contract that I have to be honest, I had always considered sacred. I'm not goody two shoes, by no means, but I rarely, if ever, allowed my offstage antics to affect my onstage ability. What was happening with the band was I didn't like to see, and that was, and I know David Coverdale felt the same. Of course, Pacey felt the same. But Tommy and Glenn were occasionally compromised on stage. Not always, but occasionally. But once is more than enough on that level. They both knew it, but they were both so deep into what they were into that it was impossible to, you know, get them out of it. If I was to tell you at one point, there was a guitar case full of cocaine, which was toted around the world for us by a guy who owned that cocaine, so that it was available whenever Tommy and Glenn needed it. That's pretty sad.
I don't think the band were going to let me go. They wanted me to regain my senses and come back, and which was exactly what happened. But, you know, Deep Purple's story isn't just about my drug addiction. Deep Purple's story is more about the music, but unfortunately, you got two members now that are very into Class A drugs, you know, and you know it's taken out a lot of people. A lot of my friends are dead because of that. Come Taste the Band for me holds a special moment for me with this time around. It's a beautiful piece of music that I wrote with John Lord at 3 o'clock one morning at the piano. And Getting Tighter, the only song that I wrote with Tommy in its full length was another key moment for me. And You Keep On Moving, I wrote with David in 1973 for Burn, but it wasn't appropriate for Burn. If you listen to the album and listen to track one, Coming Home, that's not me playing the bass or singing on the backgrounds. Because because the band had not completed the backing tracks when they sent me back or asked me to go back to the UK, they were a track short. So they wrote the track Coming Home without me, and Tommy played the bass wonderfully and sang back, and I'm going home. If I was on that track, it wouldn't have sounded like that. It would have sounded something else. So, you know, I'm smiling because it sounds so coming home. It sounds like the Seven Dwarfs, you know. But they had to complete it, you know. They had to do what they had to do to get the album done. But I look back at Come Taste the Band as when the wheels fell off, and I say that with sadness.
To pay the cost would never be the same.
Especially when I listen to This Time Around, because the wheels were really coming off now, and if you listen to the lyrics of that song, it's painful to me that I was losing. And I'm not talking about music now. I'm talking about I was becoming a desperate man that was really sadly in need of help, you know, and I didn't know how to get it. There is no one to blame. There's no woman, dealer, guy, thing that I can go, it's all your fault. It's all my doing, because I wasn't born thinking I want to be a raging alcoholic drug addict. I want to run amok. I want to be a whirling tornado across the world, and I want people to go, well, there he is. That's the guy we've been talking about. That's not the guy I want you to remember. I want you to remember me, or think of me, for my work as an artist and a singer and a bass player and producer and a performer. I don't know how I survived the mid-70s, never mind the 80s. I don't know how I survived it. Tommy didn't survive. I don't know how I did survive.